In September 2025, America faced a very strange economic situation. The country was bringing in a lot of money, more than it ever had before. This new income came from special taxes on goods bought from other countries. These taxes are called tariffs, and President Donald Trump's government had made them much higher. For example, in August 2025 alone, the government collected almost $30 billion from these tariffs. This was a huge increase, nearly 3 times more than what was collected in August the year before. Over the full fiscal year, which ended in September, the money from tariffs reached a new record of over $165 billion. This showed how much the government was making from these new taxes on foreign goods. But even with all this new money for the government, many American families were having problems. The cost of food was rising very fast. In August, prices at grocery stores went up significantly. This was the biggest monthly increase in food prices in several years. Things like fresh fruits, vegetables, and even meat became more expensive. This meant that daily meals cost more for everyone. At the same time, the country's total debt was not getting smaller. It was growing even larger. The government was spending much more money than it was taking in. For the fiscal year 2025, the national debt was close to $2 trillion. This was one of the highest debts America had ever seen, outside of the years during the COVID-19 pandemic. So, the country faced a mix of record money coming into the government, but also higher prices for families and a national debt that kept getting bigger. This was a big and difficult problem for the United States economy. 2. A lot of money. The government in America was getting a lot of money. This money came from special taxes called tariffs. These tariffs were put on goods bought from other countries. In August 2025, the government collected a huge amount of money from these taxes. It was about $29.5 billion. This was a very big amount for just 1 month. This collection showed a very big jump from the year before. It was almost 3 times more than the money collected in August of 2024. To be exact, it was 296% more. Before 2025, the average tax rate on foreign goods was very low, less than 2.5%. But by August 2025, it had grown a lot, becoming around 18% to 22%. This big change happened because President Donald Trump had set new trade rules. These rules made foreign goods much more expensive to bring into the country. For the whole financial year of 2025, which ends in September, the money from these taxes was truly record-breaking. It reached $165.2 billion. This was $95 billion more than the year before. This meant the government collected more than double the amount of money from tariffs. The U.S. Customs and Border Protection, the agency that collects these taxes, gathered over $26 billion. This figure was about 300% higher than what they collected in earlier years. This vast sum of money was certainly a new situation for the country's finances. The amount of money collected kept growing month after month, showing a clear trend. In May, it was $23 billion. Then it grew to $27 billion in June and $28 billion in July. Finally, it reached its highest point in August, bringing in almost $30 billion. These growing numbers meant a steady and increasing flow of income for the government. America had not used such high tariffs in a very long time. The country had not seen similar tax rates on foreign goods since 1933. That was many, many years ago. This comparison shows how special the current economic situation is. The government now has a lot of money coming in from these tariffs. This huge amount of money could certainly help with some national spending. However, this big income does not fully solve all of America's larger money problems. 3. The country's big debt. Even though the country is collecting record amounts of money from new taxes on foreign goods, its total national debt is still growing bigger. This situation is a strange problem, almost like a paradox. The government is taking in more money than ever before from these new taxes, but at the same time, it is spending even more. This means the large amount of money coming in is not enough to cover everything the government needs to pay for. For the fiscal year 2025, the country has faced a very significant budget shortfall. This shortfall is called the deficit. By August, with only 1 month left in the fiscal year, this deficit had reached almost $2 trillion. This is a huge number. To put it in perspective, this amount makes it the third highest yearly deficit ever recorded in the country's history. Only during the extraordinary spending years of fiscal 2020 and 2021, when there were very special national needs, was the deficit larger. Let's look at the numbers for just 1 month. In August 2025, the government collected $344 billion. This was a new record for the amount of income received in a single month. However, in that same month, the government spent $689 billion. This figure also set a new record for how much money was spent. This difference between what the government collects and what it spends clearly shows the challenge. Even with the record money coming in from the new taxes on foreign goods, the government's spending is much higher. The new tariff money is a substantial sum, but it cannot completely fix the big imbalance between the government's income and its expenses. The money from these new taxes alone is simply not enough to solve the country's very large national debt problem. The Congressional Budget Office, a group of experts, has made some predictions about the long-term future. They estimate that if these tariffs continue at their current high levels, they could help reduce the total deficit by $4 trillion over the next 10 years. This sounds like a lot of money. However, this is a future projection and comes with many uncertainties. For now, despite the record income from tariffs, the country is still dealing with a growing, very big debt, and the new money is not making it disappear. 4. Food is more expensive. The new tariffs started to affect American families directly. People saw higher prices when they went to the grocery store. In August 2025, food prices for eating at home went up by 0.6%. Compared to July, this was the biggest jump in prices in 1 month since August 2022. Overall, food prices over 1 year grew by 2.7%. This was higher than the 2.2% seen in July, and the highest level since late 2023. It meant that families had to pay more for many of the things they bought every week, making their food budgets tighter. The increase in prices was not just for 1 or 2 types of food. Prices for all 6 main groups of food in grocery stores became higher. For example, fruits and vegetables together cost 1.6% more in August. Specific items, like tomatoes, saw a dramatic 4.5% monthly increase, making them much more expensive. Apple prices also climbed by 3.5%. The cost of meat, poultry, fish, and eggs also increased by 1% in August. Beef, which is a common item for many families, rose by 2.7%. Even non-alcoholic beverages like juices and sodas went up by 0.6%. Dairy products, such as milk and cheese, and cereals showed smaller but still noticeable increases of 0.1%. These small changes add up for families over time. Beyond these monthly changes, some everyday items showed even bigger price changes over the past year. Coffee prices, for example, surged by 20% in the last 12 months. Bananas, another popular fruit, became 2.1% more expensive in August alone. These rising costs were a direct result of the tariffs placed on goods coming into the country. These tariffs made imported products and also materials used to make and package food more costly. Experts at the Yale Budget Lab studied these effects. They found that all the tariffs put in place in 2025 would likely increase food prices by a total of 2.8%. Their calculations showed that, because of these tariffs, an average American household could lose about $3,800 each year due to higher prices. For families with lower incomes who spend a larger part of their money on food, the yearly loss could be around $1,700. This clearly showed how the new government policy, while collecting more money, was making daily life more expensive for shoppers. 5. Big shops have problems. The new tariffs started to make things hard for big stores. These are the shops where many people buy their food and other things. Walmart is one of the biggest. It always tries to keep prices low for its customers, but even Walmart was feeling the new pressure. Walmart's CEO, Doug McMillon, spoke about the problem. He said that the company was working to keep prices as low as possible for as long as possible. But he also said that the costs were going up every week. This happened as Walmart bought new products to sell. These new products cost more because of the tariffs. He believed these higher costs would continue for many months. In its recent report, Walmart showed that it made more money than before, but it did not earn as much profit as people thought it would. This means the company had to pay more for its products and could not sell them for much higher prices. This made their profit smaller. Customers also started to change. Walmart saw that when prices for some items went up, people bought less of them. Instead, they looked for other, cheaper things to buy. Sometimes they even looked for different kinds of products entirely. This showed that families were looking closely at their money. Other big companies also had to make changes. Home Depot, a store for building and home goods, told its customers that some prices would go up. This was because of the extra costs from the tariffs. Even famous clothing brands like Ralph Lauren started to raise their prices. Companies like Procter & Gamble, ELF Cosmetics, and Black & Decker also increased their prices. Not all stores had the same problems. Kroger, another big food store, was doing better. This was because Kroger bought more products from inside America. So, the tariffs on foreign goods did not hurt Kroger as much. They could even plan to sell more in the future. This situation showed that the tariffs were not just a government problem. They were also making it hard for big shops and changing how people shopped every day. 6. Who pays for the tariffs? Chapter 6 looks at who truly pays for the tariffs. At first, many thought foreign companies or American businesses would pay. Now, the answer is clearer. Initially, American businesses absorbed most new tariff costs, trying to keep prices low. Some took on about 64% of extra costs early on, leading to lower profits. Foreign sellers paid a smaller part, about 14%, less than expected. However, studies now show a different trend. More and more, tariff costs are moving to American families. Experts like Goldman Sachs predict that by October, consumers could pay 67% of these costs. Companies cannot absorb higher import costs forever. They raise prices on goods, so people pay more for items like food and clothing. This puts the Federal Reserve in a difficult spot. Their goals are to keep prices stable and ensure full employment. Inflation, with rising prices, was 2.9% in August, the highest since January. Normally, the Federal Reserve would raise interest rates to slow price increases. But the job market is weak. In August, only 22,000 new jobs were created, and more people sought unemployment help. Because of this, the Federal Reserve, led by Chairman Jerome Powell, plans to cut interest rates on September 17th. This action usually supports the economy and jobs, even if it lets prices climb further. The Federal Reserve views tariffs as causing a one-time price jump, not ongoing inflation. So they prioritize helping the weak job market. This is a tough choice. Fight rising prices or support jobs, especially when tariffs make both harder. Financial experts expect 3 interest rate cuts this year, showing deep concern for the economy. 7. A weaker economy. The new tariffs are now showing wider effects on the country's economy. While they bring in a lot of money for the government, many experts believe the overall economy will grow more slowly. This means that businesses might not expand as fast, and fewer new opportunities could appear for workers. For instance, the Congressional Budget Office, a group that studies the government's money, says that these tariffs will have both good and bad impacts. They note that reduced investment and lower productivity, which means businesses make less or are less efficient, will hurt the economy. Some studies give more clear numbers. Experts from the Yale Budget Lab, for example, estimate that because of all the new tariffs this year, the United States economy could be persistently smaller. They believe this loss in total goods and services could be worth $100 billion to $180 billion every year. This is a large amount of money that the country will not make. This slower growth could also lead to fewer jobs. The Tax Foundation, another group that studies economic issues, has warned about this. They predict that current tariff policies could lead to more than 300,000 full-time jobs being lost. If this happens, many families would face challenges, and it would be harder for people to find work. This kind of job loss affects many different industries across the nation. Adding to these worries is a major legal issue. The tariffs set by President Donald Trump are facing a big test. A federal appeals court has already said that many of these tariffs are against the law. Even though they are still being used for now, the Supreme Court, America's highest court, will soon look at this case. Arguments are set for early November. This means the rules for all trade could change very soon, depending on what the Supreme Court decides. This situation creates a lot of uncertainty for everyone in business. Companies do not know if the tariffs will continue, stop, or change in a big way. This makes it hard for them to plan for the future, invest money, or think about hiring new people. Businesses need clear rules to operate well, and this period of not knowing makes everything harder. This uncertainty itself can slow down the economy further, as companies wait to see what happens next before making big decisions. 8. What happens next? So, what happens next for America? The country is in a very unusual situation. President Donald Trump's new taxes on foreign goods, called tariffs, have brought a lot of money into the government. This money has reached record levels. But at the same time, many people are finding that their everyday items, especially food, cost much more. The country's total debt is still growing bigger, not getting smaller. It is a big problem with no easy answer. These rising costs affect everyone, but they hit some families much harder. People who do not earn a lot of money feel the biggest impact. They spend a larger part of their income on basic needs like food and clothes. Because of the tariffs, these goods now have higher prices. Studies show that families with lower incomes can lose a lot of money each year due to these new costs. Sometimes they might even use credit cards more to buy what they need, causing more financial stress. The future of these tariffs is very unclear. A federal appeals court has said that some of these taxes might not be legal. The Supreme Court will review this case in early November. Their decision will be extremely important. If the courts decide to stop the tariffs, the government would lose much of the money it is currently collecting. This makes it difficult for businesses and the government to plan for what comes next. Another important question is how long people can continue to pay these higher prices. The cost of living is increasing steadily, making daily life harder for many American families. People are already trying to save money by changing what they buy. If prices continue to rise, it could lead to bigger problems for the whole economy and for people's ability to afford their lives. This entire situation is a big test for America's economy. Can the country keep getting so much money from tariffs without causing too much harm to its citizens through higher costs? How will President Trump's administration balance the need for government money with the daily struggles of families? The answers to these questions will shape the country's path forward. What do you think should happen next with America's tariffs? Please share your thoughts in the comments below.
Hey there! Just a second before you go. If you learned something new today, please give this video a like, write your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel. It only takes a second, and it really, really helps to create even better English videos for you. Your support means the world. Thank you.